Nation, we are live. Happy Tuesday. Tuesday is my YouTube day, so I spend the day working on my YouTube channel. Recorded a whole bunch of videos. Today's my big. I have one really big YouTube filming day every month, so that's what I am deep into filming content today. But we're taking a quick break here to have a fun conversation with an entrepreneur that I think you're really going to enjoy. And let's invite him in. I see him here in the house. Welcome, welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And there he is.
My man, how are you?
How you doing, Peter?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm actually in the green room I'm out in LA today shooting for Forbes and just taking a little break in the action to hang here, chill with you for 10, 15 minutes.
It looks like you're like under the sea in an aquarium or something. Like
I know, right?
That's awesome.
They got some funky lights in here, but it's all good.
I love it. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, Peter Taunton in the house. If you don't know, super successful entrepreneur. I guess got to start in the wellness industry, but has evolved and branched out to a lot of different kinds of businesses. Went from, I got a picture of me on the wall there. I'm like 8 or 9 years old.
I love it.
Peter started his first mini venture as an 8-year-old outside his father's grocery store selling popcorn.
Right. Anything is possible, right?
And he's come all the way here. What are you? I mean, you've had so much success in the wellness industry. It feels like now you're also trying to be more out there, trying to give back, try to share the advice. Sure. Like, what sparked that shift for you instead of just being the operator to now also wanting to share the message?
You know what? I mean, I spent 35 years of my life just in the health and fitness space, and the last 15 years of it was building what later became one of the largest wellness brands in the world. So I think after stepping away as the CEO, and I'll always be the founder of those brands, but stepping away as the CEO, I just had this moment of reflection thing. And you know what? I mean, literally, I went to school in a 2-room schoolhouse. I quit college my junior year. And I went from that to building one of the largest wellness brands in the world. I'm living proof that the American dream is alive and well if you just set your mind to it, and making the impossible possible. So that's my message today, and that's what I'm out here with Forbes today. I talk about that anything is possible if you believe, and the first person you need to believe in is yourself, right? So that's just kind of the underlying message. I'm not going to tell people it's easy. It's not. I also got into social media a little bit because there's so much BS out there. People fanning $100 bills and flying in jets they don't own and Ferraris they don't own. And I just said, hey, look, you know what? I'm living proof. My jet is mine and my cars are mine. And it's hard work. Make no mistake about it. You got to be willing to lean in and fail forward and learn from your experience. So that's what I'm about. I'm about keeping it real. I always say I'm kind of a watered down Gary V, if you will.
Okay. We got to get you popping on YouTube.
I know, right? I'm on YouTube, but I'm really new to the social media stuff. So I'm really, really new to it. I don't profess to be an expert. I know just enough to be dangerous. So I look for people like you to help me out and kind of point me in the right direction, tell me what I need to do.
Yeah, here's why. Because YouTube gives depth. Because anybody can do a picture and put some quotes on it and rent the jet or whatever and put it on Instagram. Or anybody can do a quick 40-second video and share some thoughts. But YouTube, if you're making 10 to 20-minute videos, it exposes a lot of people. Like if you don't have the actual deep well of knowledge to help people, you get exposed pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But for you who's lived it and done it and shared it and seen everything, it'd be super easy for you to just make a 15-minute video talking about how an entrepreneur can have success or some of the most common problems that people have. Like you could talk and never have to repeat yourself, which a lot of people struggle with because they don't have the depth. So
sure.
Anyway,
I've got a lot of real life experiences. I always say, it's fear is a dream killer, and you can't be afraid of failure. And that in itself is the real hard part. That's the first challenge for a lot of people, is just that fear of failure. Nobody likes to be embarrassed. Nobody likes to fail. Nobody fails intentionally in most cases. So it's that ego that gets in the way with it. But I always tell people, look, if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. And that's got to be the right mindset. That's got to be your mindset as to where you start. Number one, you have to believe. You have to visualize what that life is that you want to live. And then you have to believe that you can do it. You can't kind of fake it. You can't half-ass it. You got to kind of be all into it, all in. And with that means that you're willing to take those sacrifices along the way, which might be, financial sacrifices, hanging out with friends, or what. I mean, we could write a book on how we have to give things up in order to win, because winning isn't easy.
When's your next book coming out?
I'm doing one right now, and I never thought I would, but I told my story here at Forbes, and they said, hey, we want to write a book with you. So I'm literally in the midst of it right now, and it's called Impossible Hill is the name of the book. It'll be out here in probably 5 to 8 weeks, but Impossible Hill. And what it talks about is how to overcome what you think is the impossible. And it starts right here, the 6 inches between your ears. We're our own worst critic, right? So I just try to get people in the right mindset. The book is really about how to prepare you for battle, how to prepare you for the battle of winning. All right. So I don't send you to a gunfight with a slingshot. You know what I mean? So it's good. It's really insightful stuff, and it's firsthand real life experience for me. It's not business theory, which I get a kick out of people that can cite business theory. They've never had an employee. They've never been in the trenches or had to experience the trials and tribulation that really come with running a company where you're making decisions for hundreds of people that affect hundreds of families, really on a daily basis. It's not for everyone.
Yeah, I love it, dude. I'm pumped. So the book comes out in 8 weeks, or you're finished writing in 8 weeks?
Yeah, there's going to be, and that's not me. I mean, I'm literally, I sit down with my writers several days a week. So I'm doing what I do with you. I mean, they say, tell me about it. Tell me about your life, and tell me about stories. And then when I tell them a story, we dig in deep, and then we put business paralysis around it to say, look, here's why I did that. Here was the cause and effect of that decision. So and that's what a lot of the consulting that I do today, especially with I tend to do a lot of consulting for young entrepreneurs, number one, but also businesses that have been open for years and they feel stuck. They feel stuck because maybe they didn't pivot at the right time, or they're no longer relevant in the marketplace that they're in. So I help them kind of push through some of those areas, which means they have to pivot, which is really difficult for some companies and for some people to do. They don't have the capital, or they don't have the ambition anymore to do it. Pivoting's hard work.
Cassie here in the live chat's asking, will there be a pre-order?
Yes, yeah, there will, for sure.
Is it up? Like when does pre-order go live?
God, I'll tell you, here's the deal. When you're dealing with Forbes, they're kind of like, normally it's the 900-pound gorilla. It's like the 9 million pound gorilla, right?
Wow. Okay. We won't talk too loud because you're in their green room right now.
Yeah. So they're going to tell me when that book is coming out, but they're ambitious to do it, because what I'm doing with Forbes is I'm creating a masterclass for them. That's about entrepreneurship. So you can go online and you can purchase the master class, and then part of the master class is actually the book itself as well. Yeah.
Cool. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, you want to take a couple questions from the live audience?
Of course, no worries.
Let's do it. I love it because most people, I think, guys, you're watching live, you get the chance to actually bounce with somebody who's gone through it. A lot of people struggle with the live because, again, they don't have the depth of knowledge. So let's see what we got here. So Bo in the house is asking, what's the best kind of business to start during COVID?
Well, I tell you what, that's a great question, and I would say let's just take COVID and put it on the shelf for a moment. The best type of business to get to start in is, number one that you can be passionate about. And Steve Jobs said it very well. You got to be a little bit crazy to get into business because it's a lot of work. You're right. It's a lot of work, and it takes more time and more effort than you ever thought it would. So I think it's a slippery slope to put COVID in the mix. I would say first find something that you're really passionate about, so you're willing to endure the tough days. And then the other side of COVID is the new world is going to be different. I mean, I think that restaurants and health clubs and things are going to get back to a normal state, but I think you're going to see people wearing masks even after a vaccine comes out. You're going to see people wearing masks. I'll bet 2 years from now. It's just going to be a way of life for some people. I don't roll like that personally, but it's a different world that we live in, and you just have to be really cognizant of it and really intentional with your hygiene and cleaning nowadays.
Love it. Okay, King Winfrey is asking, what's one? So you mentioned Steve Jobs. What's one quote of Steve Jobs that you love?
Well, quote of Steve Jobs, I think it wasn't so much a quote, but he hit it right on the head. It was just talking about that you have to be a little bit crazy to get into business, right? You got to have a little bit of crazy in you because it's 9 out of 10 fail. Let's just call that what it is. So you got a 90% chance of failure, number one. And number two, you're betting in many cases, you're betting the farm. You're betting when I had in a business, I bet my life savings. I bet I knew that I was going to be sacrificing my time not at the time with my friends, with my family. Those are all sacrifices, travel, all of those things, because you have to be all in. Business is hard enough, but I think you've got to be really intentional and all in. You got to give it whatever it takes. And then you can't be afraid that mainstream to pivot along the way, because today businesses change at the speed of light. So you have to be able to pivot to make sure that you're always relevant with your customer base. So important. And a lot of people miss that. So when you start to see your business slide, then you have to look at a couple things. Number one, what is the competitive threat? Is there a competitive threat that came into your marketplace? Number one. But number two, are you still relevant? Are you still relevant with your customer base? And the easiest way to find out is ask your customers, what do you love about us? And then just shut up and listen. What do you love about us? And then listen to what they say. If it's a short list, you better start thinking about, are there other things I could be doing differently for you?
I love it. Okay.
So it's all about value.
XA is asking, how did it all start? How did you get into business? Well, get ready for the book. It's coming in 8 weeks.
Yeah. But you know what? Here's the reality. The reality is, obviously, I started selling popcorn from in front of my dad's grocery store in a little hometown in rural Minnesota, right? So that just goes to show you anything is possible. That was my first foray into business. But I had an opportunity to turn around a failing health club. I played professional racquetball for about 12 years, and that opened the door for me to see what health clubs were like and how they should be run. I had an opportunity to turn around a failing health club when I was about 22 years old. And they said, hey, Peter, if you can turn this club around, we'll let you buy us out with the profits that it generates. It took me about 8 years. The business was losing $200,000 a year when I took it over. Within about 5 years, it was generating about $200,000 of profit. So over 8 years, I had enough equity to buy the owners out of that business. And here I am today. There's a lot of distance between that time and today, but here I sit today with 6,000 locations in 28 countries. So, and I couldn't have done that. I want to preface by saying I could not have done it without surrounding myself with some really bright and committed and passionate people. So I feel blessed to have been able to stand on the shoulders of some really competent people I take the battle with me any day.
I love it. Well, this is a good follow-up question from Lowell, who's asking, what was the best advice that helped you realize what your passion was?
I never got any advice as to what my passion was. I knew, we all know what we love to do. Think about the things that we love to do. Think about where our interests lie. So when you have a free day, imagine this. If somebody said, hey, look, you don't have to work for the next 3 days. Ask yourself, what would I do with those 3 days? Assuming you're not doing laundry and cleaning your apartment, stuff like that. But if you just had free time, where do you find yourself gravitating to? That's the best place to start. I can't stress that enough. Don't chase money. Money's too fast, okay? If you chase money, you'll never catch it if you're trying to chase money in a field of where you have no passion. Okay, so follow your passion, find where your passion resides in an industry. You don't have to nail it down to one thing, but find a general area of what you're passionate about. For instance, if you're passionate about people, if you're passionate about the food and beverage space, all right, that's a great place to start. So you know that you don't want a desk job as an accountant, as an example. So you want to be in the food and beverage space, or you want to be in the entertainment music space. Great place to start. Now look within that vertical space and say, how can I find something that I can be really passionate about? But then the second question is, how can I make a living at it? Let's be practical about it too. I may do something that I'm really passionate about, but if I can't monetize it, if I can't turn it into a money-making business for myself to support my lifestyle, what is that going to do for me?
That's a hobby.
When I was a kid, I wanted to be a game warden. When I was a little kid, I wanted to be a game warden. And then I realized when I was about 17 that they only make about 20 grand a year. And I said, well, shit, what am I going to do with that besides be on food stamps, right?
I love it, man.
Yeah,
Okay, let's see. The kindness guy in the house, great. He's asking, why is kindness seen as a weakness in the entrepreneurial world?
it's not. I say it all the time. Don't mistake kindness for weakness. I say it all the time. Look, today, in today's day and age, here's the reality. Being humble and kind goes a long way. And here's a perfect example of it. And I have some people that I've met along the way that kind of roll the same way. So I've observed through observation. I live a certain lifestyle. I mean, today, in my companies, I pulled north of 100 million out of my company. Okay, so I have a life of private jets and fancy cars and multiple homes around the country. That is my life. However, I still, when I hop into my Ferrari, I might have faded jeans and a t-shirt on and a baseball cap on backwards. Okay. Money doesn't make the man. And I always tell people along the way, as you're becoming successful, doors open for you. And whether it's deserved or not, people always do favor for you. You generally, you get special favors going into restaurants, you get great seats at concerts, and and sometimes people, they start believing in that lifestyle. They feel like it's deserving of it, and I think that's a slippery slope. Personally, for me, I think it's a slippery slope to fall into that. I always tell people, don't be so proud that you won't drink out of a styrofoam cup. In other words, just keep it real with everyone. Be intentional. When somebody approaches you, listen, be humble, be kind, be gracious, and help where you can. Give back where you can. It's everything.
Do you have a daily practice that kind of keeps that groundedness?
Yeah, hell yeah. I mean, I literally, when I go to bed at night, I give thanks for just the amazing life that I've been blessed to live. And the same thing in the morning. I think of 5 things that I'm grateful for. It's a great way to start the day. Here's the reality. Attitude is something that we all control. Okay. And I'm responsible for my own peace. It's not anyone else's responsibility. And peace starts with attitude. And, I think attitude and gratitude are side by side. Just like discipline and execution are side by side. You don't get one without the other. Okay. So I think just keeping it real, being kind, and help the underdog in every chance that you get. Every chance you get, help people where you feel you can help them level up in whatever it is they're doing in their life.
So that evening practice that you have, could you walk us through it? Like if somebody wanted to model that and tonight get
Yeah.
the Peter Taunton evening
Yeah.
routine, like what would you do? What would you say
Okay,
to yourself?
like today, for today, and it doesn't. It doesn't all have to be real deep. It doesn't have to be this awe-inspiring, because it's your own personal. It's, look, whatever you're grateful for, whether you're grateful for your health, that's an easy one. You're grateful for your family. I'm grateful that I'm able to be at the Forbes office here today shooting for my show. I'm grateful to have that opportunity. I'm grateful for the amazing friends and acquaintances I've made along the way. And then lastly, I'm just grateful for this amazing life that I'm able to have a front row seat to living the American dream. But once again, with all those things that I'm thankful for, I want to just, impress again, don't lose yourself in the process. I happen to be one of those guys that I lived the American dream. I had a front row seat to my own dream. It was surreal in many cases, but I'm the same guy. I went to school in a 2-room schoolhouse. I'm the same guy that went to school in that 2-room schoolhouse. Okay. So it's really important that you, like I say, stay grounded, stay humble, stay kind, and don't lose yourself.
I love it. All right. Okay, let's see. More questions coming in. Mohan's asking how to sustain through the process when you feel overwhelmed in business.
That's a great question. So overwhelmed in business, here's a mistake that a lot of people make. When things get, I always say, when you go to work, especially if you're managing people, some days you're a cruise director, other days you're a firefighter. Okay. So
It's a good one.
when you have those challenging days, you have to stay grounded. Don't panic. Okay. If you're leading people, you never want people to see you freak out. You don't want to be the guy raising your voice, kicking your trash can across the office. That's not you. That's not how you lead people. That's not how you inspire people. All right. So for me, when things are going sideways in my business, I pull back and I say, what are the material things? What are the material moving parts that make this business what it is? Okay. What are the material? Because a lot of times what happens is you veer off the center line of your core competency. Okay. You start trying to be something that you're not. And pretty soon, every time you do that, it distracts you from the core business that you started. Now, it's one thing if you're going to make an intentional pivot, and that's going to be your new material change in your business, then you're focusing on that. But so many times people try to get involved in too many things, and before you know it, you wake up one day and you're not doing any of it well anymore. So you know what? So sustaining through treacherous times or tumultuous times, it's really a matter of staying disciplined and sticking to your core competency.
I love it. Nina is asking, does everyone need to be an entrepreneur?
No, and it's not for everyone. I mean, it's not for everyone. I mean, if everyone wanted to be an entrepreneur, I wouldn't have employees. I mean, you can be an entrepreneur within a company. I mean, to me, like leadership begins with people that when you look to your left and when you look to the people to your left and to the right, and you help those where you can, where you feel like you have insight that you can share with them. That is leadership. That is mentoring. So don't think that you need to be a department head in order to mentor. And when you live your life like that, when you genuinely look to those around you and freely give of yourself and information to help them level up in whatever it is they're doing, that's leadership. And I tell you what, people who are leading, they look for people like you with those types of qualities.
I love it. Okay, here we go. What are your thoughts on equity dilution? We're getting specific now.
Yeah, equity dilution. You know what? There's a time and a place. When I started my first brand, I started it with about $300,000 of my own money. And in 5 years, I built it into about $100 million company. Now, for me, there was a time I wanted to take some chips off the table. I can't stress this enough. When you build something and you owe it to yourself as an entrepreneur to pull some chips off the table. You owe it to yourself. You do not want to start a business, ride it all the way up to the crescendo, and then ride it like a toboggan down the other side. That's not what being an entrepreneur is. I see it happen all the time. I talk to people all the time. And I tell you what that does to your mental psyche, that's a whole other discussion. So for me, I started my company, and when it had about $100 million valuation, I sold 40%. I sold 40% for $47 million. Now, I knew at that time in my life that my life was never going to be the same again. Okay. It was my fiduciary responsibility to myself and my family to sell 40%. Now then, 5 years later after that, I sold another 20% for about the same amount. All right. Now, here's the point. That second bite of the apple that I took, that's where a real lesson was learned. If I had that to do over again, I would have sold more. Okay. Because when you give up control of the company, then anything can happen. I wish I had sold probably 40% more, maybe 50% more, and held on to 10%. Today, I own about 25-30% of the company that I founded. And it's ran a little bit differently than I would run it, but that's the trade that you make when you give up control. So dilution can be great. There's a right time to do it, but as soon as you give up controlling interest, for me personally, dealing with firsthand experience, I would never keep more than 20% of my equity, because for me, I have a hard time getting involved in a company to that level when I'm not the one flying the plane, if I'm not the one making the day-to-day decisions.
Got it. Well, let's get one more in. Peter's got to get to his show. He's in the green room giving us a lot of his time, so we appreciate that. Last question. How much of our profit should we invest into marketing?
It's a great question, but there's not a short answer to it. I mean, how much investing into marketing depends what the business is. Okay. I will tell you this, that in the industry that I spent my life, which is the health and wellness space, print advertising today, it's a dinosaur. It's not productive. I mean, we used to do direct mail pieces all the time. You very seldom see it anymore. You see it, but I know for me, when I'm going through the garbage or when I'm going through my mail, just like many of you, what do I do first? I sort through the junk mail, right? I just literally, I don't even look at it. I just toss it right to the garbage can, and then I see the material items that are left. So I think it depends on what market you're in. The beautiful part is today with social media, you can do so much organic marketing if what you're saying is real. Okay, if you've got a real message and it's not just BS, it's smoke and mirrors. It's, I always say, you know what, there are so many fakes out there in social media today. Make sure that when you wake up in the morning, the biggest fake in the room is not the one staring back at you.
I like that. Peter
It's true.
Cotton in the house. All of those questions, none of those were scripted. They all came live, and he's answered them like a masterpiece. Appreciate you, man. For people who want to dive deeper into your world, where do you want them to go? What's their next step?
It's really easy. You just go to Peter_Taunton, TAUNTON. That's why I'm not a marketing director. So Peter_Taunton on Instagram. That's my Instagram handle. That's where I post everything. So and for me, I do stories, and the stories are just my real life. Okay, the stories are my real life. My wall posts tend to be more motivational or business related, but I think it's important to get a little flavor of both because it's important to know how I roll throughout the day. That's for me. How do I live my life having prospered so greatly? And it all starts by just keeping it real.
I love it. Well, thank you for taking some time out of your day in the green room, man, to answer our questions, and super pumped for everything you're doing, and can't wait for the book to come out.
Hey, I enjoyed it. I'm happy to come on your show anytime you're right. Just tag me. You know how to find me now, and I know how to find you. I'm happy to do this anytime you'd like, brother.
I love it. Thank you, Peter.
Hey, take care.
Take care.
Yes. Bye.